Welcome back to the channel, guys. It is your resident internet psychic medium, spiritual advisor, Mr. Crane, and today I am at Phoenix and Dragon. This is actually one of my practitioner days. I'm a practitioner in this space a couple of times a week, and then I do classes, usually on the weekend. And so if you want a reading, because a lot of people are like, are you going to do a reading? And I'm like, I don't know. If you want a reading, right now, the only way to get a reading is to come see me in person at the Phoenix and Dragon. So if you live in Atlanta, that is where I am. Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm here all day. Come find me or call the shop and then they will book you in. Now, do I plan on doing readings like online for those of you that don't live in Atlanta? Maybe, probably, at some point in time. I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm a one-woman show, and so because I'm a one-woman show, I have to like phase things in slowly over time. If I do everything at once, it becomes really overwhelming. And so because there's so many things and like services and stuff like that, right now everything is just kind of getting phased in a way that I feel like I can hold and handle. But if you are in Atlanta and you want a reading, come see me. I'm here. I am also really excited because we have some new classes that are on the calendar. You can check out the links in the description box below. You can also go to the website and see them, or you could stop by the shop because I will be using the facilities at Phoenix and Dragon in order to host these classes. So, in addition to the tarot class, on February 17th, for those of you that are interested in that, we still have some spaces. So you can sign up for that. The link is in the description box below. We also are doing a candle magic class that will happen every fourth Sunday of the month. And the reason why it's every fourth Sunday is because the theme of the candles will change depending on what the moon is doing, right? So this particular class is around the new moon specifically. A lot of people do stuff around the full moon, and so I feel like that already exists. We're doing it around the new moon. Why the new moon? Is because the new moon is great for releasing things, for getting rid of blockages in certain areas of life in order to bring things into you that you actually want to have. And a lot of people start with the full moon. They start with the manifestation process without considering the fact that, oh, I actually need to get rid of some of these blockages that are preventing me from manifesting so many of these things. And so that is what the class is centered around, but it's going to be fun. It's very interactive. You will walk away from the class with your own personalized candle, and then how do you make the candle? I will be teaching you how to do that. It is a class. So if you're interested in that, come to that. There's also the Divine Feminine Collective that will be happening the first Tuesday of every month as well. That'll also be in the space Phoenix and Dragon. So this is for people who are local to Atlanta or Atlanta Metro. Come by. We will be doing the Divine Feminine Collective once a month as well. This is a women's circle where we are all empowering each other. We're working through our stuff with each other. It is a community thing. Come be with like minds as we go through life together. So if that is something that you're interested in, that exists as well. The link into that is in the description box below. We also still have some available astrology reports. If you want a birth chart and natal report, that's available. Just link in the description. If you want to have a birth chart and natal report and you would like to have your 2024 year ahead forecast, link to that is in the description box as well. If you would like a spiritual advisory consultation with me, again, link in the description. We are now cooking. We've got a lot of things that are now going on. We are up, we are moving, and yeah. It is what it is. So you can come see me in whatever capacity that you would like to come see me in, and I would love to see you. But the reason why I came on is because today is one of my reading days, and a lot of energies will pour in during days like that because it is destined, divine, I don't really know, but there's definitely a feeling of like spirit, be it my spirit team, be it your spirit team, or whoever is coming to see me that day. There is this thing that happens where like all the spirit teams know that I'm coming. Oh, I'm getting really sick of the reflections. But all the spirit teams kind of know that I'm coming. And so they start to pop in and they start saying things, and like wanting to relay certain messages. And people that have had loved ones that have passed over, sometimes the grandma will show up before the person actually shows up, right? To let me know that, like, hey, they're here, I'm here, they're coming, and we've got things to say. And so one of the things that I had downloaded this morning, that is, I believe, relevant to a lot of you, is this idea behind what is success and what does it mean. And that a lot of people beat themselves up because they feel like they're not where they're supposed to be at in life, or they're not as far as they thought that they would get, or that there's certain milestones that they didn't hit or didn't achieve. And then they use this as a reason to justify or not justify why they feel like they are in the state that they're in. And what we have to remember is that the success of life comes through the experiences you have on the journey itself. It doesn't come through a particular milestone. And so a milestone can be like going to school, graduating in 4 years, getting that job, making a certain amount of money, getting married, having kids, having X amount of kids in X amount of time, and making X amount of dollars, retiring at a certain age, making sure you have this much money in the retirement account before you retire, like things like that. The thing is with these milestones is that these milestones are not, there's no spiritual backing to them. There's no spiritual basis to any of these milestones. There's no spiritual law behind any of these milestones. These milestones are very arbitrary, and they are decided by man, right? Like, it's decided by people. There is no spiritual reason for why any of these milestones actually exist. That is why you can accomplish a milestone. You could have spent years working to it. Money could have been poured in, investing into reaching or achieving a certain milestone. You get to this milestone and then you realize that you're just not fulfilled. It's because it has no spiritual backing, and there's no spiritual reason for why the milestone actually exists in the first place. We have to remember that life itself is a spiritual experience. And what we have done is created things with arbitrary meanings. They don't have a whole lot of meaning at all. There's no real deal function. There's no real deal purpose behind some of these things that collectively we have agreed on as a milestone. And therefore, we are working throughout life trying to achieve it, but are not experiencing fulfillment, or we have achieved it, but then still realize that there's no fulfillment that comes with it. And if there is fulfillment, then it's like a short-term level of fulfillment. It's not a long-term level thing. It goes away fairly quickly. It's because there is no spiritual reasoning behind why any of that actually exists. There is no spiritual reasoning behind why you're supposed to graduate at a certain time, or why you're supposed to go to college. There is no spiritual reasoning about why you're supposed to make a certain amount of money, or why you're supposed to retire at a certain age, or why you're supposed to have X amount of dollars saved up in a Roth IRA. There is no spiritual reason behind why you're really supposed to get married or have children, or at least in this particular day and age, because we have taken things that are supposed to be really natural and we have made it human, forgetting that the entire experience innately in and of itself is a spiritual experience, that life is a spiritual experience, and that when we are pursuing things that have no spiritual backing, no spiritual law that's governing it, that the feeling of fulfillment will not be achieved, because fulfillment is also a spiritual experience. And so if you're trying to have the spiritual experience of fulfillment while also trying to get that feeling by pursuing things that have no spiritual backing, those two things don't go together, which is why you don't feel it. And so I say all of this to say that if you are someone that's in a position where you have been really beating yourself up over what you feel like you have or have not accomplished, have a look at that list to see whether or not any of that list has any spiritual backing to begin with. And if you find that some of the things on that list don't have any spiritual backing, then you can then ask yourself, well, then does it really matter? And if it still does matter to you, and it may, and the reason for that is because you are still human, right? Is there a way where you can restructure your thinking and your feeling around it, where it doesn't take so much of a toll on you in a way that it has taken previously, now knowing that that particular thing has no spiritual backing anyway. And if there's no spiritual backing, then what's the spiritual purpose behind what you're doing? These things, these milestones, are just checkpoints that we do to fill the time. But they're not indicative of who we are as individuals. And so it's really important that we remain wise enough not to say, well, the lack of achievement in this one particular area or for this one particular milestone means that I as an individual have never achieved anything, or that I don't achieve much. We need to make sure not to project and assign that particular milestone, because it's arbitrary anyway, some big elaborate meaning. And we have to make sure that the meaning that gets assigned to it isn't so massive and detrimental that it then negatively impacts our view of self, our view of our identity, and who we are and what we can do, what we can't do, what we stand for. We have to make sure that we don't pair those two things together, because we're here to have a spiritual experience. Life in and of itself is a spiritual experience. And the spiritual experience is the journey. The milestones happen with each experience that you're having along the journey. Each up, each down, all the highs, all the lows, the wins and the challenges. That is where the success actually is. Overcoming a challenge, that is where the success is. The success is not, oh, I got that 4-year degree. At least not on a spiritual sense. On a very human level, there is success there, but if you're trying to find fulfillment and you're wondering why you're not fulfilled, even though you feel like you've hit those traditional milestones, it's because those traditional milestones are not rooted in any sort of spiritual law. It is arbitrary and it's created by human, but there's no deeper meaning behind it. And that is why when you achieve those things, you find that you don't feel any deeper feeling towards it. And then you sit there and you wonder, why don't I feel fulfilled? I did everything right. You may have done everything right, but the things that you did do had no spiritual backing. Food for thought. Anyway, I have concluded my rambling for today's session, and so I'm going to go. If we don't meet again, I'll see you next lifetime.